2 of my submission only series breakdown. This is submission only series 4, the 185 Pro, where two of my brown belts, Ryan Aitken and Chase Hanna, were able to go in on opposite sides of the bracket and make their way to the finals where they fought each other and win all of their matches in dominant fashion. So I decided I was going to do this for you guys and break this down for you guys. And this is just the second part. We're going to do one of these per week for the next 3 weeks from now. And then essentially we're going to do one match from each person each week. So it's going to be something for sure to look forward to each week, and they'll all be posted on, they're all going to be live, but they'll all be posted on my YouTube page after we get done with them. Okay, so let's get right into the breakdown. So as you guys can see, first up, we're going to have Ryan Aiken's second match of the tournament.
Ryan blew through his first opponent.
Pretty easy
heel hook
attack that
he used.
Basically used outside position gripping
against a much smaller opponent
to gain access to the legs, and then of course win with the heel hook. So
in this match, he gets an auto standout from Atos HQ.
Tanino. So let's get into that. I'm going to play it so you guys can hear the interviews.
This will be interesting too, because remember, Aitken had that nice heel hook from off the butterfly sweep in his first match. It was like, probably 30 seconds in. So both these guys coming off real quick finishes with leg locks.
Yeah, usually with
we're gonna kill the commentary,
and
I'm going to give you guys sort of a play-by-play. So
this
match was long. This match goes all the way into
overtime and right time,
so I'm not going to spend a lot of time stopping the video. But you see Ryan steals the inside position right away. And so really important what just happened right here. I know I said there's a whole lot, and I'm not, but this is really important what you guys just saw right here. It's a little dilemma that Ryan played here. So you notice that Ryan stole the inside position right off the rip. Ryan takes his left leg and steps to the inside on Tanino. So right there, that's huge. Okay? But the thing is, Ryan. This leg is on the inside, so that is where Ryan's going to start looking to pass. So notice that Ryan starts to underhook over here with his left arm. So he's going to start looking for like a knee cut type of pass. He'll pull that leg down. But what Tanino is going to do is start to pull that left foot out to block Ryan's hips from coming through for this knee slice. It's a nice little dilemma that Ryan's playing here, where he can keep the knee inside and Ryan's going to make this knee cut happen probably pretty easily, or he can bring his foot out and Ryan's going to get an easy Ashigurami entry. So we'll see what happens. He pulls his foot out, Ryan easily lifts the foot, makes an Ashigurami entry. So right there, he obviously fumbles the back. So Ryan hasn't really been doing like leg attacks like at a high level for very long, maybe a year now. So he fumbles still quite a bit. He's very new to this game. As you can see, he's making some pretty big errors with his ankle lock, some pretty big strategical errors as far as like the positions he's choosing to attack from. So you get a nice inversion, Kane Basami there. And this is probably Ryan's best shot at finishing a leg during this match right here. But you notice that Ryan is slow to bring his head through the legs. He's slow to off balance. Just again, this is inexperience. Is all this is. Ryan's hitting like a reroll there, looking to expose the heel. Anthony's able to get his leg out. So it's just again, like I said. So you see Ryan here looking like a head and arm, like a club. Sumiga here is what he's looking for. But just essentially playing his knee elbow at this point, like not letting the inside position be stolen by the smaller competitor. We see Ryan again moving into inside position, attacking Ashigurami. So right here, an interesting sweep attempt from Ryan. But you'll notice that Ryan's doing a lot of like attacking this ankle lock, but he's attacking it in the wrong direction. So I see how Ryan is turning. He's essentially like turning the toes down this way. What that's going to do is that is going to do a decent job of exposing the heel for him here. But the problem is when you're attacking the ankle lock that way, that's the natural bend of the ankle. And if you attack the ankle lock towards the natural bend of the ankle, you're just not going to finish the majority of guys, especially at a higher level. Guys are either taking like those minor pops that you're going to get with that kind of submission, or their legs are flexible enough that they take no damage and they just escape.
Holy.
So
when we attack the
ankle lock, we want to bring the toes over the heel.
So we're attacking it almost like
Aoki or like Fenkle lock style of motion. That's the direction we want, but we don't want the heel to slip out. If Ryan would have made that adjustment, he probably could have done a little more damage. But right here, he obviously used it to expose the heel, which isn't always a bad thing. But attacking this outside heel hook right here for Ryan, he's just a little out of position, and I don't think Ryan has the experience. It didn't have the experience at this point to finish the belly down outside heel, which is a little more of a delicate finish than some of the other variations of the outside heel.
Yeah, so we see
Ryan just pulling the heel and just
making a bunch of like technical errors. We see Tanino looking for that little like pinch back take right here, but Ryan's able to retain the knee line, which pretty much shuts down that knee pinch back take that the Atos guys like a lot. Ryan looking for a reverse grip, which is a nice adjustment off of his last outside heel hook, and they obviously roll into the wall and they stop it. So that again would have been a nice attempt for Ryan. That reverse grip outside heel hook. We're not going to start back in the leg entanglement, which I actually like them not starting back in the leg entanglement because it's a little ridiculous sometimes with that kind of stuff. So here we go. Ryan's right back on the inside. And you'll notice just Ryan just playing to the inside, playing it nice, tight the elbow. Tanino never really gets close to passing him. I don't think he ever would have gotten close to passing him. Just simply based on the weight. See how the outside position passing he's trying to employ. You're a small, short-limbed guy trying to pass to the outside on a much larger, longer-limbed opponent is just sort of like choosing to do things the hard way. Like outside guard passing being based on moving around the limbs, and you're going to try to run 6 miles around the limbs. I just don't know if that's the method for it, but it's the method he chose. So I think that's where his biggest struggle was. You see him going for a little bit of inside guard passing here and getting a lot closer passing Ryan's guard than he did in the previous one. So that's a big deal. So there shouldn't be any more echo, Brian. Let me know if you hear echo still. So basically what we see now is Ryan again attacking the inside position. Ryan's just relentless with the inside position in this match. We're just not gonna, he just didn't really close it out. But you see Ryan looking to make like a wedge here. He's wedging him, re-rolling him through, trying to find that dig. But against you're playing an inside position game against a shorter limbed guy, you're going to have a difficult time. You're just naturally, it's going to be harder to play an inside position based game against against a smaller limbed guy. And that's what Ryan's doing here. So a lot of like what you see like in Ryan getting frustrated here, like kind of like getting like stuffed trying to deal with Tanino's game or whatever. It's not necessarily like a lot of like strong technical movement from Tanino as much as it is just like Ryan's wild inexperience in trying to deal with this game. You know what I mean? Trying to deal with like a shorter guy and play the inside position. You see more of this like ankle lock attacking the wrong direction. He even tries passing it off. You're just not gonna get that. You know what I mean? He needed to change the angle on it, and this was a mistake he was making in this time in his game, but has since changed a lot of that. So again, you see Tanino going for like a little calf crusher there. He's still kind of going for it, which is this is one of those submissions like that's largely by and far just a waste of time. Ryan's gonna keep his legs straightened there. You know what I mean? He's just gonna straighten it and turn. So he tries to roll to the inside, which is a good strategy. Again, you should be attacking the inside. You're the shorter limbed guy, but he just sort of fumbles the application a little bit, much like Ryan has been doing the entire match, and he just loses everything. I think Ryan should have played a little tighter here. You know what I mean? I think Ryan should have played a little tighter here. He should have played like some better like hip controls and things of that nature. He just really didn't, and it just cost him a lot, So Ryan stepping to the inside again, just staying on this inside attack, but you just notice how easy it is for Tanino to close that space off and steal it away from Ryan because of the difference in the length of the limbs. this overhook grip that Ryan's using there is largely useless. Of course, as you can see, he gets out very easily. Ryan tries to create a dilemma for both legs, but just not gonna matter when you're not tight enough there. Nice little sweep there from Tanino, but Ryan's right back on top. That's one thing I'll say about Ryan is he's very difficult. This is the game right here. Ryan's fairly difficult to hold on to in some of those positions, but Ryan really looking for that headlock. But again, like, the smaller guy is going to be able to wiggle his arms and his hands into those places and fight you there. If Ryan could have gotten on his back during the regulation, then we would have seen like a lot more offense from Ryan. But his inability to move behind his opponent, or really just tactically not moving. I mean, I'm there in the corner telling him these things about his footlock, telling him these things about moving behind his opponent. But again, like I said, Ryan's not really a veteran of the submission-only game. You know, he's only been trained with us for about a year. So his game is just growing. You know, it's growing. So I think I was advising him to go to the wedge at this point, and Ryan's just trying to work his leg in there. But again, that lack of space, you know, that lack of space is difficult. And this guy, you know, he's good. He trains at Atos headquarters with Andre Galvao and those guys. You know, he's got good training partners. He's got good coaches. You know, he's a tough cat, you know. So here goes Ryan again, selling this ankle lock. Just not keeping his body in the right position to get the right kind of break on that ankle. Tanino really looking at that calf crush type of position here. Nice toe hold counter. Tanino, that's actually a really smart counter. But Ryan's legs are just so long. You know, he's able to outrun that. He goes for the knee pinch back take again. Ryan outrolls him. You know, a lot of these techniques are just not going to be there. You know, like it's just not the right time. It's not the right grips. That calf crush is never going to work in that position. A, Ryan's feet are crossed, so you can't create the compression you need. B, your feet are not crossed, so you're not able to generate the kind of pressure you need. And then they run out of time. So now, since it's EBI rules, we go into the EBI overtimes. EBI overtimes being, you know, armbar position, back mount. You get a set amount of time to try to submit your opponent. If you submit them in that time, they have to submit you within the same amount of time. If you escape and your opponent escapes, then it goes into a ride time scenario. I'm not really sure what his coach was staring at right there, but I actually had no idea what they were saying the entire time. They spoke Portuguese the entire time, so I have literally no idea what he was telling him to do. So what we see here is essentially Ryan, again, being so new that he has a base idea of what he should be doing. He has a fundamental idea of what he should be doing, but he doesn't have a very strong technical application of that concept. So right here you see Ryan playing the topside X leg configuration. Not that Ryan couldn't lock a standard body triangle on Tanino. I think Tanino just held onto his foot because he thought that was going to help him in some way. It was super clear after the first round that he didn't really know how to get out of the body triangle. So it just pretty much comes down to Ryan's hand fighting. And you'll see Ryan like hand fighting. He gets control of the dominant hand, but he doesn't pin it. You see how he keeps it out away from the body like that? That makes it easy for Tanino to kind of recover it whenever he wants. You see how he's just barely holding on by the ends of his fingers here instead of pinning it to the body and creating a closed grip. That was a big downfall from Ryan. Since Ryan decided to play top X here, he really didn't have the option of trapping the arms with his legs, which would have been really nice for him, but he didn't really have that option because of the top X. And I don't think that Tanino really knew that he was locking him by playing that way. I think he thought like he was going to do some kind of ankle lock or something on Ryan, which is a bit absurd at this level, but that's okay as well, I guess, if that's what you're training or that's what you think. It just isn't going to get you anywhere if someone understands that that's not really going to happen. So in this position, Tanino, again, he just does a really basic job of covering up his chin. And I'm telling Ryan like the entire time, like, come on, man, you have to get the dominant hand at the pinky line. You have to pin it to his chest, you know, and then we can work from there. Now that your leg is out of the middle, you have the option of trapping the leg with trapping the arm with your leg, you know. And he just Yeah, he just kept fumbling through this little hand fighting sequence. And Tanino does a good job of fighting with his chin, which is a huge part of defending yourself in the back mount. I just wish that, like I said, I just wish that Ryan would have either full scent and just locked over everything, right? Because he had his chin in the middle. Ryan could easily have locked over the top and just finished. Or Ryan would have, technically beat him. So now we see Ryan on defense here. And Ryan doesn't really have too much of an issue with Tanino's back mount. I don't really think... look at the position of Tanino's Achilles here at the hip bone. If you're putting your Achilles at the hip bone, you have almost no hip control, right? So you notice that Ryan's hips escape like almost right away. And that's by and far, the easiest way to escape someone's back mount if they're just putting their Achilles at your hip bone. You have to think that like your legs are used to control the rotation of the hips. If your knees are wrapped around the hip bones, then they're going to have a very difficult time rotating their hips. If your Achilles is at their hip bones, they're going to be able to rotate their hips easily. That's the end of the lever. Imagine if you were going to hang upside down off of monkey bars, you would wrap the backs of your knees around the monkey bar and you would hang upside down. If you just put your Achilles on the monkey bar and you let go with your hands, you will fall and break your neck. It's essentially the same thing on the back mount. Notice it. I want you guys to notice where Ryan's knees are. Notice that his right knee is wrapped firmly around Tanino's bottom hip bone, and his left knee and Achilles are tightly planted against his top hip bone. So now you'll notice that as Tanino goes to rotate and escape the back mount, his hips literally can't rotate. So as long as Ryan retains some modicum of control over the upper body, like this guy will never get out of the back mount. And like I said, after the first round, we absolutely knew that. I just, like I said, Ryan hasn't been with us that long. I just wish that he had gotten this piece of information ingrained into his game before this tournament. He can literally have just locked everything right there when Tanino's chin is in the middle, and he just doesn't. Like right here, boom, just send it. Just send everything. You know what I mean? We just see the same hand fighting problem. Ryan just not piecing it together in the hand fighting here. You see, like, Tanino's not even really doing a good job of controlling the choking hand or anything. Ryan just doesn't. But this was months ago, you know what I mean? He's had time to reflect on this and fix a lot of these holes in his game. It's just a bunch of mistakes right here, See, Ryan could have easily closed that off right there. If Ryan would pin that hand to the chest, Tanino wouldn't be getting it back. If you'll notice how the hole in Ryan's grip. So when Ryan is there, Ryan's hand is like this. Tanino obviously wants to bring his hand away. So like if the grip is like this, all Tanino has to do is just pop his hand right out of there, and he does it like almost every time. You know what I mean? Almost every time. He just keeps going for this little ankle lock thing. Maybe that's what his coach was saying in Portuguese. I literally have no idea what his coach was saying in Portuguese. Yeah, he's Ryan laughing because he's going for the ankle lock. It's just a bit cheesy at the higher levels to try and go for stuff like that, because even if it was a thing, he's not going to tap. You know what I mean? So if you'll notice, like, Tanino strategically making a huge error here, allowing Ryan to start with double wrist control in the choking hand and keeping it on top. Tanino easily could have hidden his choking hand, and it's not that it's going to hide forever. It's just that Ryan wouldn't have a 2-on-1 on the wrist and the hand right away, and that would be a huge advantage for him comparatively. But Tanino trying to work the body triangle, but just not really there. His hips are behind, so he's not going to have an easy time locking that up on the bigger opponent, and then Ryan's easily going to free his hips. So you'll notice, again, we noticed right away that this guy didn't have a good concept of using his knees to control the hip bones, and because of that, it was hip escape first, and it was easy for Ryan to make his hips turn every time at the beginning of the overtime. And this is really all it comes down to competing at this level, guys. It's not really about, like, you see him going for the ankle lock again. It's comically bad, I think. But it's not really about, like, having the best overall jiu-jitsu, really. It oftentimes comes down to strategy and finding your opponent's weaknesses, and Ryan was able to find that his opponent had that weakness. Tanino should have realized that Ryan's hand fighting wasn't in a good place and had tried to beat him at the upper body to escape first, as opposed to trying to beat him at the hips. You'll notice that Tanino's constantly trying to turn his hips and do little foot locks and stuff like that. Your hips are locked in that body triangle. You're not going to move them, right? So you see him right here make an effort, and then Ryan literally just locks him back down. He should have tried to free his upper body first and then made his escape. Just, you know, because that's obviously where Ryan's best control was on his hip and not on his hands. But this is the natural progression of somebody learning the back mount. Learn to control the hips first, then you learn to control the shoulders, then you learn to hand fight. So Ryan's upper body control and hip control is fine. He couldn't put the hand fighting together. Ryan goes for a shoulder lock here. He goes for a bent arm lock. Essentially, it's a bent arm lock, but in reality, it's a shoulder lock. He's just trying to go for this attack here, but Ryan's not really sure how to do it. She's literally looking at me and asking me how to finish this, which I think teaching people moves during matches is pretty difficult to do. So trying to communicate to Ryan was actually pretty difficult, and Ryan obviously is unable to close this out against Tanino. Yeah, so you just see again Ryan here on the body triangle. Pay attention to the placement of Ryan's knees. You'll notice that again, like Tanino has no hope of rotating his hips inside of that body lock correctly. And again, you notice Ryan's grips on the hands are absolutely out of place. And we see the time run out again. So at this point, Ryan is so far up on ride time that there's literally no way that Tanino can win by ride time, but he could still finish him. You know what I mean? So we go into the final overtime. This is going to be the last shot that he has at doing something to Ryan here. He has to tap him to win, but again, you notice the knees up by the armpits there. His knees absolutely were not in a good place to control Ryan's hips. We notice that Ryan's hips are already making their way out, and Ryan's across the body, and he's out. That's a win for Ryan based on escape times. This was the only match that either of them had that didn't end in submission in regulation. So, like, I'll say this, like, my hat's off to Tanino for surviving with Ryan out there for so long. That was awesome. I'm going to turn the sound back on so you guys can hear the interviews.
Comes out on top of that back control.
Well, man, like I had a bunch of attacks right off the bat on the outside heel hook, but he's got like tiny hobbit feet, so it was hard for me to like get a good hook on it, and he was good about keeping his hips lifted. I was having trouble pinning him. I wanted to work to the inside, kept missing it. Had one really good attempt, rolled out. Eventually, I just decided I was gonna have to win on ride time because I couldn't even get under his chin on the overtime. So, sorry it's boring.
What was your corner yelling at you the whole time?
I was supposed to be attacking the rear naked choke more, but every time I would, like, I couldn't get on that fucking chin, you know? So,
Cool, man.
yeah, thanks. Things to work on.
So they just show like these highlights and stuff. All right, Chase Hanna's going to be right up after this, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the sound back on.
Man, honestly, it's just been grappling for close to 10 years. 10 years now, actually. Started with Sean and stuff like that, and just like relentlessly, just even at white, early blue belt, just going and just getting crushed. I was absolutely terrible, but I just had to keep going and just kept pushing. It was, you know, it was just something was forcing me to drive, and I just felt like it was something that I really wanted to do. So I just kept. Now I feel like I've gotten to a point where I feel pretty good.
You feel like you're good at jiu-jitsu finally?
I wouldn't say good at jiu-jitsu, but I feel like I'm able to compete a little bit better than I did. This one's pretty good. There's some pretty decent names. It's some mid-tier guys in here, and there's a couple guys who are pretty good. But I'm just excited to be back in here and competing. I haven't competed in a pro bracket since November. And then before that, the whole COVID stuff happened, and like just pretty much just been out of commission for a minute, but I'm super glad to be back.
I'm Luis Moreno. I train out of Black House in Gardena, and I train out of Pedro Soriano Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in San Pedro. And we're here at Submission Only Series, ready to get it done. Came here with my sensei, my coach, my family, a couple of MMA coaches are here too, so ready to show what's up, man. So I got the bye for the first round, so automatically to the second round.
All right, go ahead and kill the sound on that. So we're gonna see here again. Chase been with me like from the beginning, so his understanding of our principles and stuff that we work is as high as anyone that trains under me. So boom, right away, what did we talk about the first breakdown? How you stand and the grips you allow make or break everything. Okay, so guys like see stuff like this and they think like, oh yeah, man, like that guy didn't have any idea what he was doing. Like Chase just jumped on his leg, blah blah blah. No, dude, like again, like I'm sure this guy, you know, it is what it is, you know, with legs. I don't know how good he is at all that stuff, but the thing is it doesn't matter. It's about the stance. It's about your balance. I want you to go back. We're going to go back and we're going to watch right away what happens in his stance and the grips he allows. So here, and boom. Notice his square stance. Chase has already taken one side step with his right leg, and he's completely exposed his center line here. This is all exposed. Look at his feet. You see the center line? You see Chase's big fat toe right here pointed right up the center? Chase is in a staggered stance. He's not. So he's already at a huge disadvantage off the first step of the match. Okay? I also want you to note that both of his hands are even and they're in a straight line. So now when Chase makes those grips, exposing him, dragging him onto his toes to off balance him is going to be so easy because of the square stance and the even grips across the body. This is exactly like Chase's last match from the first breakdown that I posted for you guys. Square. Square. And gripping. Right here. Notice that Chase pulls on the left side, okay? He's pulling the head, but he's also pulling the left hand. What this does is when this guy tries to move his legs to avoid this sliding ashigarami entry, the lift of the inside foot, the pull of the collar tie, okay, and the grip here, what those are doing is those are pulling him forward so that this rear leg steps all the way to right here next to Chase's hip bone. When that leg comes all the way to Chase's hip bone, he's going to have an easy ashigarami. Done. Done. You're caught. You're caught. And not only that, but because Chase was able to pull his head across his center line while he turned, now his weight's headed in that direction. His hands are going to have to catch him. And now we have it. We have the bite. We have ashigarami. We have the bite, okay? And what you're seeing here, okay, is what we call a pre-roll. Now, the reason we call this a pre-roll is because we're rolling prior to the pin that's going to allow the break to happen, okay? So right now, Chase is pulling his legs into him, okay? He's not pushing. He's rotating his knees. He's engaging his hip a small amount, but not enough to stop the knee from rotating, and he's twisting the snot out of this dude's foot. Now, generally, you wouldn't want to twist the foot super hard, like just rip it across your body in a heel hook, because that's what allows for the spin out, right? You'd want to be bridging. But when you want him to roll in a pre-roll, you want him to roll so that when he rolls, his hip will hit the floor, and you're able to bridge from that point and stop the roll, so you effectively spin him into a pin, stop the pin with your hips, and break his leg. You see Chase switching. There's the roll. He finally rolls. Boom. So now what we're going to see is Chase transition his inside leg over the top. Obviously, you see that. He's locking the outside ashigarami. The point of this is to reinforce that drive from the hips back into the knee and bring his knee back in the other direction. Tap. And that's the match. Okay, so we can go back and you guys can see sort of the whole thing here. Pretty easy. Again, watch the stance. Now that it's at live speed, I want you to watch the stance and watch the angle changes that are being made. Boom. Ashigarami. He begins the pre-roll. And now we go into the pre-roll. And the tap. Boom. Done. Textbook, basic leg lock 101, essentially. Just played really well. And that's all that this stuff really is, guys. It's just basic jiu-jitsu played really well. Let's turn this back on so you guys can interview.
Body. I saw a nice little opening. His stance squared up a little bit, so I was able to go underneath him. Went to Ashi. Felt like I couldn't quite get the grip that I needed, so I went reverse grip. And with that one, it puts a lot of torque on the foot. And when I kicked my leg through, I went, his ankle made a very nasty sound. I hope he's okay. That was rough, but props to him for coming out, man. It's crazy.
He didn't tap. So
No.
Did you switch then, or were you just gonna keep breaking after?
Just you got to keep going, and then eventually use your hips on the reverse grip. The reverse, when you turn, your body's twisted, so you have to line it back up and then bridge in order to get the attack on the knee. I didn't quite get squared, so eventually he tapped on it. So, yeah. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, that was the outside heel hook too, which is a much more technical one to finish.
Yep.
Much more difficult, and he made it look easy.
Yeah, he got under it real quick and had a bite on that heel very, very early, and Luis did not react quick enough.
Yeah, and I think he started turning, and maybe for most people that try that outside heel hook, that's probably enough. But Chase had a good bite on that one, and at one point you can just see that Luis was not turning anymore, and that heel was not in a good way.
Yeah, and he winced, and then I heard him tell the referee that he heard a pop, so I hope he's all right.
Man, Chase has got some pretty vicious heel hooks.
Yeah, it was nasty. So Chase, what? That's a combined probably 40 seconds for these two fights?
If that. It's crazy.
Alright guys, so what you guys have seen today was the only match between the two of them that didn't go into, that did go into the overtime. None other match between either one of them ever went to overtime. You saw Chase, the same exact thing he did in the first match, essentially find the square stance, off bounce him over his toes, sliding ashigarami, pin, break, it's done. Next week, what you guys are going to see is Ryan have a much easier match, and then Chase fight probably the toughest guy in the entire division in Adrian Nez. Adrian Nez has beaten Dan Borovich. He's beat Kyle Chambers. He submitted some very high-level guys. He's very tough, and he also has beaten Ryan before. And so Chase and Adrian Nez is next week, and then also Ryan's next match in the tournament. So again, thank you guys for checking this video out. Thank you for stopping by. If you stopped by for the live video, thank you. If you are catching this on YouTube, thank you. Don't forget, hit that subscribe and turn on the notification